Hey, welcome to another video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about whether you should have a Facebook group or a self-hosted group or self-hosted community. So I know that there are a couple of tools available now where you can create your own sort of community. There's tools like Circle, there's Discourse, there's Discord, where Discord's been available for a while. Mighty Networks. All of these different tools, even I think local.com, where you can actually create sort of a community of your own. You can self-host it, or you could just use the traditional Facebook group. And Facebook groups have been around for a long, long time. They're kind of built into the ecosystem. And so I wanted to actually go through some of the pros and cons, if you will, some of the yeses or nos as to why why you might want to use a Facebook group versus a self-hosted group. And it really depends on what you want and really what you want to do with your group. But yeah, that's the purpose of this video. I'm going to be comparing the two. I'm not giving you a bias over the other. It really is up to you what you choose. So hopefully this video will be helpful for you if you're thinking about building a community or you're thinking about moving your community from one to the other, depending on where you've got your community. So let's get into it. I've got 11 things, so let's go through them quickly. So number one, the most obvious thing is Facebook groups are free. Right? Whether you've got a public group or you've private group or a hidden group, private hidden group, they're all free, right? And I believe there are monetization options coming. I'm not sure when those are going to come through, but Facebook groups are free. And so just by virtue of the fact that Facebook is free, these Facebook groups are free as well. It's kind of like a no-brainer. It's like we don't have to spend any money to start building a community. Right? With self-hosted communities, you've got to pay for the tool, right? So Mighty Networks and Circle and some of these other tools. Discord is free as well, up to a point, but a lot of these self-hosted communities where you're actually going to build the community yourself, build the infrastructure, host the infrastructure, you've got to pay for. And so that's, obviously depending on what your costs are, depending on what your budget is, it may be fine to be to have a paid version, but it's really up to you. And then the second thing is, in terms of Facebook, like billions of people are using Facebook at this point. And so people are used to Facebook. They're in multiple groups. They're already using the infrastructure. They know how it works. They don't have to be educated. Engagement is easy. They're used to watching videos on Facebook. It's just people are familiar with the platform. Whereas on a self-hosted community, there's a little bit of a learning curve. You've got to be able to educate people on where things are. You've got to show people around. You're going to have, as new people come in, you're going to have to do a lot of training and a lot of sort of coaching around where things are in your ecosystem. And then in terms of tools, right, Facebook has got a whole bunch of tools, right? For one particularly is the posting and engagement tools, which is putting up a post and engaging, or people engaging with that post, is fairly straightforward. The infrastructure is smooth, it's fast. Those tools are available to us for free as well, and that applies to video as well, right? Video is hosted by Facebook. It's embedded in the tool. It's so seamless that we actually forget that there is a whole new another technology behind videos. And then there's a whole bunch of other things around videos, like Facebook Watch and Watch parties, and like all of these things that Facebook is testing. Whereas on a self-hosted community, you might have to host your videos on a Vimeo or a YouTube or something before you can actually put it into your community. Or maybe the community has got that publishing feature, but then you've got to, it's built into the pricing of the community. So definitely check that out. Then when it comes to sort of community management, I believe Facebook groups do have community management features which protect you. You have questions. The moderation is fairly straightforward, like those type of things. And of course, self-hosted tools also have moderation features, but for example, like Discord, you've got to build moderation features if you want. Like if you want people to accept terms of service or terms and conditions on your Discord group or Discord server, you've got to build that in. Like you've got to physically have something in place where they can block people from just entering and all of those things. So Discord as well, you've got to set those things up. Discourse, you've got to set those things up. Circle has got a few more features. Mighty Networks have got a few more features, but I do feel like Facebook is probably the easiest way to get everything set up. It's like a 5-minute job to get a Facebook group set up, whereas on a self-hosted, it's going to take you a little longer. As well as the fact that now here's a disadvantage for Facebook groups is when people put in their questions and answers, you can only see that once when people are actually coming into your group, or when you're approving them for your group, if that's the way that you're setting up your group. And you can't download that information afterwards. Like once you've approved them, you can't see the email address if you've asked for the email address. You can't do those things, right? So it's a manual process to actually go through, approve those people, copy all that information out, approve them, and then allow them into the group. Unless you're building an email list and you've got opt-ins out from your group where they're going to a landing page or something. So that's a tricky thing with Facebook. With outside communities, you have access to that information. Discord, I'm not too sure about, but definitely on Circle, definitely on Mighty Networks, you have access to that list, and you can definitely promote to them if that's part of your strategy, if that's part of what you've allowed. You've let people know that that's part of the conditions of you getting them into the group type of thing. So that's a big deal for Facebook groups versus self-hosted. And then although Facebook groups have got a bunch of tools available to us, the use of Facebook's tools is limited to what Facebook gives us, right? It's slow moving. They're making changes. They're testing multiple things. There are features that come and then disappear. Whereas with a self-hosted thing, if it's if the like, say for example for Circle, they've made a bunch of changes, and let's say the community says to them, hey, we want this extra feature, they might build it in. Sure, we might have to wait, but I feel like it would evolve quicker. Or if you're on Discourse or if you're on Discord, you might be able to get a developer to actually build those things for you. Like there are a ton of developers that work on Discord and Discourse, and would be able to build very fancy things for your community. In terms of organization on Facebook groups, I find that organization and finding different posts and finding different things inside of the group, especially like historic stuff, is a challenge. I find it to be extremely difficult, especially if the owners of the group don't use the features, right? There are different tabs that you can create, and there are different topics and modules and blah, 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 depending on the type of group you've got, which can actually benefit the members. But then, there's certain members that are always going to ask, like, oh, how do I find this thing? Or how do I find the downloads files? Or, like there's always a bunch of people that just don't know how to use all the features. And of course, it's going to be the same on self-hosted communities, but I feel like it can be easier. I feel like with a self-hosted community, depending on how you build and organize your community, it will be a much easier way to get people to find the thing that they're looking for, especially if the search function works well. A big deal is in terms of support, right? Self-hosted communities with people like Circle, with people like Mighty Networks, you're going to get really, really good support from those tools. Even Discourse, there are lots and lots of, like, that community, the developers of Discourse, because it's open source, is huge. Like there's so many people contributing to that platform, and chances of you getting help or finding the solution online to what you're trying to do, you're going to get that quick. With Facebook groups, however, Facebook's going to ignore you, or if you're against their terms of service, like, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble communicating with Facebook on features. You're going to have trouble on support from Facebook on Facebook groups is not easy. It's not easy. I'll put it that way. The other thing, one of the benefits of a Facebook group is, when you get to a certain number, and I've heard people say when they get to 1,000 people, the Facebook group actually grows on its own. It grows organically because Facebook is going to start promoting that group depending on the value, depending on the engagement, depending on the level of interaction that you're giving in that group. And so Facebook, because there's like billions of people on Facebook's going to show your group to people who might be interested or who are potentially likely to actually join your group or would be interested in your group. Whereas with a self-hosted community, you're relying on word of mouth. You're relying on people to promote the group for you. And if you've got your fans inside of your group, then sure, they will promote for you as well. But the platform itself is not going to promote you. So while on one hand Facebook might be bringing people in who are potentially not your target audience, on a self-hosted community you've got almost zero support from the Facebook group, or sorry, zero support from the self-hosted community, self-hosted group in that respect. However, Discourse and potentially some other groups would be able to rank on Google. And so if Google sees that the group or the level of interaction or the page count or the activity on your website, which ultimately that's what your community would be, with a discourse server, Google might actually promote some of your content if that content is available to scrape, to read from Google side. So that might be a good thing. It's really a pros and cons. It's like, you know, I feel like growth on Facebook would be faster, and I've heard people say so as well. As I start my own Facebook group, and feel free to join the Facebook group from the comments below, I feel like it would be an easier place to grow. Facebook groups are obviously huge, and I lean towards Facebook groups rather than having a paid service. I did look at Circle, and I did look at sort of its features, and I'm probably going to do a video, a full Circle review video in future. So look out for that, and subscribe to the channel if you want to watch that. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video to talk about, like, you know, Facebook groups versus self-hosted communities. I'm not giving you a yay or nay on which one to choose. There are certain people that are going to choose one or the other, depending on what your goals, what your needs are. Ultimately, I would say ask your audience. If you already have an audience, ask your audience where would they like to be. Now, there's a whole bunch of people who are not going to use Facebook and not going to use Facebook groups because they just don't like Facebook, or because of security concerns or privacy concerns. You know, they might just not want to engage in a Facebook group. But that being said, majority of people are. And so how do you cater for everybody? It's really difficult because you can't split. You don't want to split your community. You don't want to say, oh, there's content on this thing, but there's no content on the other thing, or there's, you know, you don't want to exclude people. And so while you want to try to make everyone happy, it's almost impossible to do so. So ask your audience what they prefer, and based on the majority's vote, go with that decision. Like, make the decision and stick to it. Obviously, later on, in a couple of years or whenever, if Facebook groups is not a thing anymore, or, you know, like, things change, we can definitely figure that out. But I feel like certain tools like Circle, and again, I'm not being promoted by any tool at all to mention their names in this video. I do feel like some of these community-based apps have got the potential to be its own social network individually, right? So in years to come, there might be that, but who knows? You know, TikTok might add a group feature. Who knows? We never know. But at the end of the day, right now in 2021, Facebook groups, to me, is the best place to have a community, provided it's moderated, provided it's, you know, managed well, provided you have some sort of a way to communicate and to extract the leads that are coming through your community, if that's what you want to do. I really hope that this video was useful and that you got value from it. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you like the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you want to see more videos, hit the bell as well. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helped you make a decision as to whether to stick with your Facebook group, or to start a Facebook group, or to have a community self-hosted by yourself. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.